Hello, Rachel Jurek. I am Lisa Douglas, and I've heard a lot about your past experience at the Bingo Casino, and I'm really excited.
To say, hello, Lisa. Nice to meet you. It's okay.
And I'm really excited for you to allow me to have an informational interview with you.
Okay.
All right, so to start off, I want to start off from the beginning. What education was involved for this type of work?
You know what, Lisa? I want to know a little bit about you.
Oh, okay. I'm currently a sophomore at SUNY Plattsburgh studying public relations. I'm from Wantagh, New York, and I'm really excited to start learning more about public relations in the field.
Great. All right, shoot.
All right, so what education was involved for this work? Like, where did you start?
I had received a bachelor's degree in communication, and that would have been sufficient in my position. I didn't actually need a master's degree. I received that in Minnesota. I went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin to get my master's degree, and Potawatomi Bingo Casino was the first job I was offered following graduation.
So did you look for that job, or was it from the school?
I was working while I was receiving my master's degree. I was teaching classes, so I was a TA, and I was working at a public relations firm. So I was working at an agency, and I continued working at the agency after graduation, but they weren't going, I was still considered part-time, so I didn't have any benefits. Okay. I wasn't really salaried, I was hourly, and so I needed to find something a little more secure. The casino had a crazy interview process, and the lady that I met, she was pretty neat, so I thought, this is really interesting. She seems like she's really got it together. I'll give it a try. And it was, I think the hiring process took about 6 months.
Oh my goodness.
So it wasn't a job that I actively sought. It was, I submitted my resume. They told me I made the first round, and then I had to go in I had a phone interview. From the phone interview, I went in for drug testing and, that's not the way it worked. I went from a phone interview to an in-person interview. Then I had another interview that was in-person that met all the other people in the department and HR, and then I went in for drug testing, and I had to, and this was all like the second callback and the third callback. It was like months in between.
Were you working at the PR firm as you were doing that also?
Yes.
Wow. So you and then did you ever meet anybody you were going against while you were?
I didn't, and I don't know who they were. I know I was the only master's candidate. I was the only one that had a master's degree. Again, in that field of work, it didn't really matter if I had one or not, but she made it clear to me that I was the only one.
So you don't think it's that beneficial for the graduate school to get a master's?
I think eventually it is. Back, and that was 10 years ago, it was more important that I had experience than it was that I had a degree.
Okay.
And I needed the bachelor's degree, absolutely, but they were looking for a bachelor's degree and 3 to 5 years experience. I had gained 2 years because I worked at that agency while I was going to school, so I didn't have enough experience, and that was the thing that they were hanging up on, not my degree.
Not your degree, but meanwhile you were going to school, that's why you didn't have the experience. So, obviously you had your resume and cover letter while you were applying to the job. Do you have any, buzzwords or keywords that they were looking for in your cover letter?
I think that's the problem with people's cover letters. Really.
Too many buzzwords?
Yes. Look at what they are looking for and show them how you fit what they need to have done. So instead of saying I'm a hard worker that can multitask, show them through your cover letter and resume that I am able to maintain several situations all at one time. For example, I blah, 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 blah. I was able to run an event while, managing a mailing that was coming in at the office at the same time. Then you're showing them through example instead of just saying
I'm the best. Yeah.
Yes.
So now that you had the job, now you're starting, did they give you a week of training, or was it months of training?
There was a lot of training. And at first I started in the public relations department, and so I think I had more training than the average person, because I had to understand who the higher-ups were, where they fit in the company. I had to do site tours, so I understood the casino floor, I understood the corporate offices, I understood the foundation, I understood the business. There were 2 buildings, so I had to know both buildings, who the people were in both buildings. I then also had to know who our constituents were, so I had to know who the tribe was and the tribal members that lived in a different area of the state, and then I had to understand who they don't have chiefs anymore in Native American. They're the tribal council.
So you really had to know everything.
Yes, I had to learn. It was, and she, the lady who was in charge, she sent me a media kit. And that media kit had all the information that they would send to a prospective media person who wants to just know about the casino. So my job was to read through all of that and understand it all and ask questions on any of it before day one.
So basically you had to, like, run the show, know how to run the show before it
I had
started.
to not know how to run it, because she has her own methods and procedures, and that changes if that level of person changes. But yes, you're correct. I had to understand how everything worked. And if I wasn't able to figure that out, there's no way they would have kept me on. If I didn't know that, the tribe was the most important entity for me to answer to above any of the directors or facilitators at the casino.
It's that's so
and then
weird.
in addition to that, I also had to know the politics of the city, how the casino fit in with the politicians, who was voting for them, who was voting against them, which media entities were for them, which media entities were against them, getting positive or negative press. And that was all trial and error. I had only been in Milwaukee for 2 years, so I had to introduce myself to a lot of different publications, a lot of ethnic publications that I had never heard of before, know who their publishers were, who their beat writers were. It was a lot.
So do you feel that if you worked at a casino somewhere else, like, you would really have to start over and learn everything else about that area?
Yep, and you're correct. I didn't even touch on the third aspect, which was gambling. I knew nothing about gambling. Like, my uncle plays pull tabs. That's about the extent I had, and my aunts play bingo. I had to, and that wasn't the most important thing. They cared more about me understanding the relationships and the hierarchy of power, I guess, in the company, more so than the gaming. The gaming part was really, you had a couple rules. You never touched money. Anybody's hands that you touched, you cleared your hands for the cameras, because there were cameras everywhere. You never entered the front door of the casino where the guests enter. You always entered the employee door. Those were the three pretty rules of thumb. Like, if I was to shake your hand at a casino, you shake your hand, and then you clear your hands for the cameras. Because they wanted to make sure that you didn't hand me any money.
Wow, it's like little rules like that you really had to follow up on.
Oh yeah, if you did not clear your hands, and you can tell people who work in the casino industry, when you could tell people who worked at the casino when you would go to like the grocery store and they would pay, and then they would clear their hands
and look up for cameras.
Yeah, it's just an automatic response. You clear your hands. And it took me a long time to stop doing that.
I feel like I still would. Like, it's something that I always do.
So those were the gaming stuff came to me eventually. It was more the relationships that I needed to understand.
So I guess you kind of already answered this, but, like, what was your, like, daily routine, like, your day-to-day thing once you had, like, a steady job? Like, once you steadily were in your position?
Well, the corporate sponsorship specialist was different than when I first got in doing PR. When I did PR, I would come in, I was working 12 to 13-hour days. Every day I would come in before my boss got there, about 6 or 7 o'clock a.m., and I would check all of the media. I would check the spreadsheet. We had a spreadsheet 4 pages long of my current tasks.
Is that Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Quite frankly, and that's not going to be every job you work at. This was just the way her management style was that she was uber organized, and twice a day we would go through my entire my task list. And so we would look at media, we would look at, one of my main jobs during that position was getting out sponsorship and sponsorship requests. So people were requesting everything from decks of cards to thousands of dollars in sponsorships. There was a major event that I put on each year, which was a children's charity event through the bingo department. And so that was a year-long process. And another thing that was continuously happening every single day was the annual report. Once one annual report was finished, you started compiling your data for your next one.
Wow.
And then everything else from there was whatever was going on. We had, if it's a political year, we had a lot of lobbying and talking to our lobbying PR firm that was in Madison, Wisconsin. If there was a big event coming up, we had a PR firm that was on, what do you call that, where they're on contract, a retainer, and we would have to be working with them. I'd be answering media requests, media questions, and then anything my boss needed, I did. No questions.
Okay, yeah. Drop everything and go to your boss.
And then, so I don't know where this leads in your questions, but I moved from that position. I was working my way. There wasn't anywhere for me to go except take her job, and she didn't really want that. So I got a promotion asked to move over to the promotions department, where I was given the title of corporate sponsorship specialist.
Wow.
And I moved from PR over to the world of negotiating sponsorship contracts based on numbers. It was a really fun job.
And you're working with numbers and fun stuff like that.
Yeah, so I know that you said you've been interested in something like that.
Yeah.
It was great because you would determine the, not evaluation, but the valuation of your money. So if our casino was going to sponsor the baseball team, the Major League Baseball team, I could find a number that added up all of the value of sponsoring that team for the year. And I would say, for this amount of money, we're going to receive this much value back, based on a ton of math equations.
Yeah.
And I did that. I didn't do that for the sports teams. I did it for all the local festivals. So I'd figure out, what's your attendance? How many people are going to come through the door that sees our sign? How many people are going to have a ticket back? And what is the value of each ticket back that comes back to us? What's the value of having a commercial or having our name on the commercial before that festival? If we have our logo up there, or if you say our name, it's worth more. I had to determine every single
so you basically
little...
make up an equation for, like, your own equation for casinos.
Yeah, well, there's, it's a group called IEG. It doesn't stand for anything anymore. It used to be the International Valuation Group, but they changed, and it's a system that you have to pay a lot of money, and casinos have a lot of money.
Yeah.
You pay a lot of money to learn their equations for the values. Like, they'll say, if you know, depending on your event, they have coefficients of non-quantitative values, which are things like, if I'm going to sponsor, say, Irish Fest and Polish Fest, one of these festivals is seen more prestigious in the community, so their evaluation is going to be higher. So every person that walks in the door is going to be worth 2 cents to me, versus every person that walks by and sees my logo at Polish Fest is only going to be 1 cent to me. And you, like, figure out this whole,
So you basically put $1 on everything you were, like, putting into.
To show that when we're going to sponsor you at $2,000 to $10,000, that hopefully our return on investment is between 15 and 20. Yeah.
So a lot of math.
A lot of math.
But back to you doing media, like, I know the world is constantly changing with all this social media.
Yes.
Did your casino, like, grasp onto that?
No.
So you weren't involved in Twitter or Facebook?
Casinos are so tight when it comes to control, when it comes to getting the words out. And in fact, tribal casinos are even more so, because if you think about the background of tribes and Native Americans, they are the silent person. If you do a lot of, because they don't, I mean, they've been repressed for so long that I know that our tribe, when they did good things, they didn't want us to advertise it, because they said, no, we do things because we're good people. So we don't need
genuinely.
you. Yeah, we don't want you to go out and tell people we're doing good things, because that takes away the good thing that we did. We just want people, the good things that we did people for, they felt it. They actually gave more money to the city of Milwaukee than any other company, but they never wanted you to say it.
But it was always anonymous.
Yes. They would give, and they'd be sponsored, and their name would be out there. But for the most part, they never wanted you to write a media release about it. They didn't want you to promote it. The only time we got to do that was during that children's charity event. It was a big deal, because they raised $1 million every year for children's charities. And, so number one, they didn't grasp on the whole, let's tell everybody what we're doing. People were coming. Yeah. There was supply and demand of business. They didn't have to.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But the other thing is because there's such strict regulations. I mean, come on, what other company do you have to, like, show that you're not stealing money?
Yeah.
There's such strict regulations that social media was really frowned upon and scared. So when it started there, we were all blocked from it, from our computers. Nobody was allowed to go on it.
Even during the office day, it wasn't.
No. And the company didn't even have a Facebook page until a couple of years ago.
Do you think that almost, like, held them back, or no, because that's the kind of business that's not involved with that?
Right. They don't need to. They do direct marketing. I think they have it now where their web page has their promotions, and they might have. I haven't even looked at I know that they have a Facebook page, but it's simply informational. It's not using Facebook for what Facebook should be used for. It's not interaction.
I actually just looked at the website and I was looking at their promotion page, and they have like fun stuff like every Tuesday is Senior Citizen Day, and like this month, I guess for like the seasonal thing, it's like Mummy something. Like, were you?
My friend did that. I saw it on her